Well, now I turn to Martin Brechbiel, MMR, for his Scratch Building Corner. Martin, welcome.
Oh, thanks, Jim. See if we can get things up. Okay, well, there we are. So, yeah, that was very interesting on the paint brushes and painting. And despite the fact I'm still using flow quill, and probably will be for another 10 to 12 years before I run out of it. So, and longer for poly scale. But it's very interesting to know how to, like I put in the chat, I've probably been doing it wrong for the last couple of decades, and maybe I'll learn to do it better now. Who knows? So it's time for a new project or a next project or something going forward into July. And I've done, what, 3 or 4 pieces of rolling stock in the last 2 or 3 months. So we're going to go back to structures for a while. Only because I've run out of room to work on scratch building any rolling stock for a while. So I had a bag of rafters. Deerfield River Laser sent this bag of rafters when I bought something else from them. And this was in the bag saying, sort of like, here, do something with this. And it's been sitting on the back of my one bench for a year or 2, maybe longer, gathering dust, quite literally. So I thought, well, let's pull them out and go through the close box of miscellaneous windows and doors, which is where I throw leftovers from other projects. And so I have 2 of those windows, 2 of those windows, and a door and a frame. And yeah, the windows are all Grant Line. That door, I'm not sure what it is, but I don't think it's Grant Line because I've never seen a Grant Line door in that color. They've done different types of colored styrene, but that color is not familiar to me. And it's not a Tichy door either. So something unique that I had, but both Tichy and Grant Line make something similar. Here's what the rafters look like. They're nice laser cut rafters. Which saves you a lot of grief putting together rafters. And I can appreciate the convenience here, rafters in a bag. The thing is, however, these rafters define width of the building. You can't have a building bigger than the rafters. Go a little smaller, but you can't go any bigger. And depth of the building, well, you can only space rafters out so far apart. Modern code is closer than old buildings, but you can stretch things around a little bit, but there are limits here. We cannot have a 50-foot deep building with 6 rafters. It's not going to happen unless I make new rafters, and I'm not inclined to do that. So what I have done here is to take the 2-end rafters, and I decided they're going to be exposed, sort of, stretch this building to its max limits. And I filled the gap in the holes in the rafter pieces with clapboard. This was a lot of fun cutting these out and making them fit, but you just trace it on the back, trace it to the back of some clapboard and cut it out with a utility knife. And if you don't manage to lose any pieces of your fingers along the way, you get a nice piece that fits in pretty tightly. With a little bit of sanding, it'll drop into place. And of course, if you're not careful, it'll drop out on the other side. So I put a little piece of HO 1x stock on the back just to give it a little extra support. Now these are glued around the perimeter, but I put this on the back just for insurance so they wouldn't fall out. And, after you get the building completed and you poke the end and the piece falls onto the inside, you can't pick it up and put it back in. We're trying to avoid that from happening. Okay, so we have blanks for the front and back walls. Just clapboard with 3/32 square stock on the ends for the corners. Pretty straightforward stuff. Just slap this together with some goo and some CA, and there's the blanks for the front and back. The side walls are similar. These are going to get changed, however. Change the back wall add a bump out because a plain rectangular box or square box is boring. So we're going to add a bump out. So this is part of the original back wall. And this is part of the original back wall on the previous slide. We got a window cut out for it now. Added 3/32 pieces on the ends. And this is our bump out in the back, which has another opening for a window. So this accounts for 2 of the 4 windows. Just a matter of putting it together now. And that's what it looks like after you put the parts together. And add some bracing to stabilize it. My mistaken order of some balsa wood is getting put to good use as interior bracing material. Just because I wanted to keep this from not curling up on me and keeping it nice and flat. I added the balsa, and you can see from the inside. It's across the back and across the bottom to keep these 2 segments of the back wall into the same plane. So they're nice and flat. Nice thing about balsa is with tight bond glue, it sets up very, very quickly, and you can keep working on things. And there's what it looks like from the other side, the inside of the building, which will probably be we're never going to look at the inside of the building too much once we're done anyhow. And here are the 4 walls. So I said the side walls are kind of boring. Well, they are kind of boring. It's just a piece of clapboard, another piece of clapboard, different window opening on this side. Front has a matching window opening and an opening for the door. You just cut these out with a utility knife, working on a nice flat oak piece of wood. Carefully using the utility knife so you don't cut yourself, preferably. And being also careful because it gets a little, whoops, wait a minute, what happened there? There we go. Yeah, my trackball has a extra control unit on it that I'm a little too touchy. You just have to be careful when you're cutting open something close to the edge so you don't break and fragment off a piece of your clapboard. And if you do, it's not a big deal. That's what tight bond glue is for. You put it back together and don't worry about it. Keep going. So there's what it looks around the back. And I've put balsa wood all the way around, top and bottom. Well, not in the front yet. And you can see I've laid out, this is where our rafters are going to go. And of course, the 2 that are filled in are going to go right here on this back wall. And we'll fill those in later. And that's where we're going to stop this week. We'll pick it up next month because it will be next month when I'm back. I think.
Yes, it will.
Time flies when you're having fun building stuff. There you go.
Anybody have any questions for Martin? Martin, you're doing such a beautiful job. You really are.